Every single land deal we've ever really done, we've used Droners.io. We've been a customer.
It was so clear how big of an issue it became in the land community and the real estate community in general.
It was hard for the last 6 months helping students get drone pilots.
There's a third party who's in charge of the foreclosure that's court appointed. And he's the one who informed us there was a company with a bid and we had to beat that bid to get it to auction.
One thing we noticed is the other attorney kept on just going up $5,000. So we kind of wanted to put some pressure on him. And then he had to call his clients who are the actual bidders. So he comes back and he still raises $5,000. And then we put in another offer that is raising it at basically 50% of what it's at.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Real Estate Investing Podcast. Today's topic, we're discussing acquiring Droners.io. I'm your host, Daniel Apke, joined again by my brother and business partner, Ron Apke. And we just got back from Raleigh last night. It was a crazy 24 hours. We were in foreclosure court doing all kinds of crazy things, trying to buy a business that helped our land customers, helped our land business, helped our land investing online members, helped the community in creating more freedom and everything we're looking for. And it was such good alignment, but
yeah.
Let's talk about it.
And not sure exactly when this episode's airing, but this is right now when we're recording. This is the day after we purchased it. It is April 24th, I believe. But yeah, I mean, it was a crazy situation. Like Dan said, it's just something we've used it for so long. Every single land deal we've ever really done, we've used Droners.io. We've been a customer, and there's a huge need for it. So that's why I'm so excited about it.
It was so clear when they kind of shut it down, and they kept their site open, and they're still doing some orders supposedly. But it was so clear when they shut their asset and entity down, how big of an issue it became in the land community and real estate community in general. It's just we didn't have a good source to go to, and Droners.io was a huge help for everyone's land business, especially ours. And that was it. Like that's how we identified this situation. Ron, is we were using it, then we couldn't use it anymore, and we dug into why we were using it or why did it shut down, and then it kind of went from there.
Yeah, and from a business opportunity, it just kind of made sense. Like we have built-in customers, like we can talk about it in terms of that, and there's so much beyond. Like I think the use of drones is such a big part of the future, beyond land investing, beyond anything like that. But if you guys haven't used Droners.io, hopefully it's up and running the next couple of weeks. The website's up and working right now. It's just the orders right now. But it's where you can hire drones. For those of you who don't know, this is a website where you can hire a drone pretty much anywhere in the country. Yeah. Like drone pilots, a lot of times they'll travel 200-300 miles to get to a job, whatever it is. There's 12,000 pilots on the network. So, I mean, the opportunity was there. We saw it, and we just kind of moved pretty fast on it. Yeah,
and we use it on every single one of our closings for not only listing pictures and the marketing pictures when we put it on Zillow and all that stuff, but we also use it for due diligence, and we have them go and get ground shots of the road frontage. We have them get ground shots of inside the woods and inside the land and the wet spots, maybe a part's wet. They'd help us with due diligence a lot, and it was a big part of our business in general going from there. But I want to talk about the process of doing this and buying the business a little bit, because I think that we get asked that question a lot. I put up a video yesterday on Instagram, and I've never been blown up with so many questions about it. So let's address some of those questions here. But let's start by talking about the process of actually acquiring it and what that looked like.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing was like 6 months ago, like you talked about, like we realized 6 months ago, we realized like something was off with the website. Like jobs weren't getting approved. Something felt off. A couple months after, we did some digging. A couple months after that, we found out the parent company, I guess you'd call it, parent company went bankrupt or filed for bankruptcy. So then we dug in some more and found some information, found about it going to auction. And this was all in the last like 2-3 weeks when we found out about this. We reviewed numbers. The auction started at such a low price, it made no sense for us not to be a part of it. Mm-hmm. And then it kind of went from there, honestly. Like Dan said, it was a federal bankruptcy court. It was intense. It was intense. It was us versus another party. Yeah, and it was an intense situation, but worked out in our favor going back and forth with numbers, and that's pretty much the process, I guess.
Yeah, well, let's get into specifics then. So it was, like Ron said, it filed for bankruptcy, Chapter 7 bankruptcy, which means all doors closed pretty much under that entity, Precision Hawk. They had a bunch of different companies, Droners.io being one of them. So we originally reached out to someone on LinkedIn who gave us direction of who the trustee is. There's a third party who's in charge of the foreclosure that's court appointed. So the court hires a trustee to do the whole process. So hopefully the court gets some money back, right?
Get the most money out of the
most
asset.
money out of it. So it's a third party, kind of like an auctioneer, right? That's how I'd put it. But they're attorneys, obviously. And the first part was reaching out to that attorney, getting more information on it. When's it closing? What's the process look like? And he's the one who informed us that there's going to be an auction. There's a bidder right now. There's a bidder at that time for X amount of money, and gave us the bidder's name and their contract and everything like that. And then we needed to dive into due diligence. Being a foreclosure in a bankruptcy case, due diligence is hard. You're getting it at a deep discount, but there's also risk associated with it because this was a parent company by Precision Hawk. It wasn't like they had just droners.io books to the side. We really didn't have good numbers. The only numbers we had we still don't have good numbers. And we don't know what we're getting really.
No.
The only I'll get into that. The only thing that we really had was top line numbers and gross margins. We don't have any of their expenses or anything really like that. We had some numbers that look like expenses, but we couldn't really figure it out. And it was it wasn't too detailed in the due diligence phase because they just had such lack of information. We didn't have, how many email contacts they have, how many customers they have, how many, where they stored, all that stuff. But what helped was the trustee referred us to a security guy who did a lot of their IT guy who did a lot of their IT and warehousing, data warehousing, and things like that. And we hopped on a call with him, and he was able to give us a lot more information and due diligence and showed us where the emails and the contacts and customers and everything stored. And that gave us reassurance that we're going to get the most important asset, not only the IP domain, but we're also going to get the customer list and the droners list. And that's what the three things we really needed to make sure we had. We knew what the top line was. But essentially, like the starting bid was less than 5% of what it sold for in 2017.
I don't know when it sold exactly. It was 7 or 8 years ago.
It sold 7 or 8 years ago. And the starting bid was what?
2%.
2%. It was 2% of what it sold for. So we know the potential is there. We know how good of a tech. That's the thing. This business was such good technology, had such good SEO, had such good organic website visitors without ads, plus a great community. It's great. It's doing so much good for the world and investors. I think that another competitor hasn't really filled to that extent yet. And it was just a really good situation. But I just got to the point where we met with the IT guy, and then we had to kind of discuss next steps. So I want to talk about putting in our first bid. So there was a company with a bid, and we had to beat that bid to get it to auction.
Yep.
At that point, before we put the bid in, they accepted. The trustee, the third-party auctioneer, accepted the first bid, which means if there's no other bid, they win. But we came in, and that's when we were doing our due diligence. We came up with a price that we wanted to put our next bid in to get it to auction. And then once we put that bid in, we knew that we were going to have to go to rally. But let's talk about putting that bid in that next process.
Yeah, I mean, it was basically a blind bid. Like this was we sent a purchase agreement essentially before our bid. All we had to do was beat their bid by $10,000, I think, put down a deposit. We did have to be qualified bidders, which you didn't talk about. Like we had to show bank account statements, all this stuff to make sure that we can fulfill what we're offering essentially or bidding for. But once we had that bid in that beat their bid, it immediately initiated the in-person auction, which was yesterday. We put in our bid to beat them 2 days ago. So literally we put in our bid 2 days ago to beat them Monday. Yesterday's Tuesday. And then yesterday was the auction Tuesday. So we had to book our flights, do everything like that. The other party sent an attorney to bid on their behalf. So that's how it led up to there. We booked our flights.
It's Monday. We were on standby pretty much. We're like,
just making
we wanted
sure,
to make sure it's going to auction tomorrow and confirm that because we put a bid in 24 hours before auction. And we wanted to do it a little earlier, but we had due diligence and a bunch of things we had to go through. And the auction date's been set for a long, long time by the court. So we wanted to make sure it was still going to be fulfilled. So we're literally sitting here Monday, like, should we book our things yet? Like, is it going to go through tomorrow? And we all had kind of our travel plans, but we couldn't book anything. And then Monday comes and, I booked my ticket at 2.5 hours before we had to leave, essentially, to go there, and just booked it in the morning, and then hopped out and hopped on a plane. And that maybe put them against the wall a little bit. And that's just a little overarching strategy is it's within reason. It was legal. It's within the contract and everything.
It wasn't our intent.
It wasn't
either.
our really intention, but I think naturally what it did was, they couldn't go. They couldn't be there, which they did send a representative, which was their attorney and everything. I don't even know where these people live, but it all worked out. And then we went to Raleigh, North Carolina. We went in Monday, got in Monday, hung out there. And then first thing Tuesday morning, we had to go to court. And
we didn't know what to
were the
expect.
winning bidder at the time. We had no idea what to expect. I've never been in a federal courtroom. It was federal court because it's Chapter 7 bankruptcy, which is, federal wipeout. And we go in and we go through security and everything like you do at a normal courthouse, and go up and try to find the trustee, which is the attorney. And it's us in there. And we didn't even know if they were going to show up, because we're like, just thinking in our heads, if we won and they can't go over their original bid, we don't know if they're going to show up. So the first thing they did, their attorney came up, or the trustee said their attorney's coming in representing them. And then he kind of gave us the rundown of what we're going to do. And he's like, we're going to do a live auction right here in the hallway. And we're literally in a hallway of this old 1940s building in Raleigh, North Carolina. And, doing a live auction, and the starting bid started. We are the highest bidder, and the other party came in and put, a bid $5,000 above that last bid. And you want to explain the next?
Yeah, we'll have more numbers probably eventually in the future. We're going to try to stay away from as far as having numbers. But yeah, it was pretty much going back and forth. The one thing we noticed, maybe we're getting too much in the weeds, but we'll talk about it. The one thing we noticed is the other attorney kept on just going up $5,000. So we kind of wanted to put some pressure on him, and we went up 30 grand.
Well, we went up 10 first.
We went up 10 to meet at a number. Yeah, we went up a couple of times, just 10 or 5, and then we went up 15, and then he had to call his clients, who are the actual bidders, and he was on the phone for 15 20 minutes.
Yeah, I was nervous. I mean, my heart hadn't been beating.
It was like sports, yeah.
It was like a sports game before you go out on the game. Like, my heart was beating and stuff. He was on that phone for 15 minutes. We're like, did we win it here? And then talk about that.
Then our plan was, we talked while he was out there, okay, let's really he's obviously, this is a conversation. They had a number that they could go to. If he doesn't get under this number, he's got to call them. Okay, so that was a trigger point. And next time he comes back, we're going to go to another number, and it's going to raise it
50% higher than the current bid.
Yeah, it's going to raise it by it's going to raise it by 50%. So he comes back and he still raises $5,000, and then we put in another offer that is raising it basically 50% of what it's at. And our thought there was okay, let's not mess around with these $5,000 increments. Let's just go up and put some pressure and put some dagger. Maybe we bought it for more if we would have just kept going up.
Force another phone call.
Exactly. He forced another phone call. We forced another phone call. 2 to 3 minutes went back. He comes back and he reaches out his hand and
saying, congratulations, you got the business.
Yeah. So it was a surreal, I think, experience. We had no clue. Sometimes when you're going into something with absolutely no clue, no expectations on what it was going to be like. We didn't know if we were going to be in a courtroom. We didn't know if it was going to be in a conference room. We didn't know if we'd be separate from the other bidder.
The fact that it's still in person is kind of odd too, but it makes sense because it's
in a hallway.
But so after that, yeah, we won it. We shook his hand, said thank you and everything like that. And we went in with the intention to win this, and we had let's just say our number that we were willing to go up with was over double probably what we actually ended up on. I was happy with the result. We probably could have got it a little bit, tiny bit cheaper, but not much. Putting that dagger in and going up 50% was just a strong move, I think, overall, because I didn't want to keep going back. It's easy if you get a phone call and they're like, hey, they're at this number. Do you want to go up $5,000 again? And then we go up $5,000. It's easy to go up $10,000, But as soon as you go up, a big, and there's literally case studies on this for auction. Auctioneers love when people go back and forth $5,000 or the minimum. It's easier to get it up because it's easier to say yes. You can say an auction was going for $1,000 for a house, for a Amish cabin or something. It starts at $1,000 and everyone's going to $1,050, $1,100, $1,150. And you're like, oh, I just put 1,100 and I can go up to 1,200 now that the guy just beat me. And it's just easier. A lot of the case studies show you'll reach a higher number when you go in those increments instead of stepping up and trying to set the tone early and being like, oh, if you start at $500 auction and the first guy goes to $1,300 and you're willing to pay $2,500 or something, and you go up to that $1,300 number, the chances of you having other bidders come in is less likely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it was. I think it was. I mean, we have no clue what it would have turned out with. It could have gone higher. It could have been. I think there was less emotional. The case studies are obviously with the actual parties there, so there's less emotional pool. because it was just an attorney there representing. So it's not like we were face to face with the other bidders. But overall, after that, we went to finalize it into the big courtroom in front of the judge. So the judge had to basically approve the bankruptcy sale or the sale of this asset. The judge was happy because it went 3x. We got it about for 5% of what it sold. So it went about 2.5 times higher than what the bid was going into the day. But yeah, I think everyone's happy.
Yeah, the judge was happy. We're definitely happy. The other parties, they didn't have to put too much money there. They lost, so they don't have to put money in or anything like that. I was going to try to say they're happy. But in general, like it works out well. It was a really, really cool experience. We still, like to this date, this is the day after that just happened. We don't know, like we haven't closed on it yet. We don't have the IP or the DNS or anything from the website yet. We don't have we haven't done the transfer, so it's still an unopened box at this point, which is exciting. It's going to be a lot of work and stuff.
We're gonna get it up and running. It's just we don't know how much money, time, effort.
Yeah, and to be clear, Ron and I we have an operator that's going to be doing the day-to-day here because we're so focused on land investing online and our land business and the land portal. Like the land portal is our big focus. So we hired an operator as well with this, and we're going to do a lot of the bigger picture direction, helping out with that, how to scale it, things like that. It is our business, obviously, but it just fits our portfolio. Now you have the land portal. That was a big part of it, like the land portal, land investing online, and now droners.io in the portfolio. It all works to the same thing, helping you guys be a more efficient, a better land business, getting the freedom you guys want quicker and easier with less resistance around.
It was hard. Like we didn't know who to, like it was hard for the last 6 months helping students get drone pilots.
Oh,
like,
it's been a pain.
It's been really a pain.
I put up that story and had more replies on that story from yesterday in the airport than I probably ever have.
It's a site that makes people's lives like easier. Like it really does. There's such a big reach for it beyond land investing, like I said. But within land investing, within our community, like there is such a need, and it's a gap that was temporarily empty.
And looking at the site's SEO and everything too, there's a lot of people that are hiring droners for, land investing. We're thinking so small. That's a big part of it. And that's, what we're fulfilling it for, obviously. But a lot of people are using it for, inspections, roofing inspection, commercial properties, general real estate, houses for sale. I mean, this is drones. And then you have events. Like events are big with this. Sporting events, wedding venues, tons of different life events. If you want shots of your and you're in an outdoor setting and you want shots of your,
you can see so much more on a drone.
So much more. You can get good video footage of it. It's really cool what it can do. And the scalability of it's just great. And that's, this episode was just to inform you on the acquisition. And we had so many questions, and I think people are interested in the process and how it worked. I don't know what else to add, Ron. I think in the future, like we'll have another episode of, getting it and starting it and getting it up and running and what that looked like. But right now we haven't done that yet, and we're kind of on the verge of doing that. Yeah,
once we get it up and running, we'll probably bring our operator on at some point and have them be a part of it, kind of explain where we are right now. We're excited to bring it back, get it back up and running. Like that's what I'm so pumped about. It's like the effect it's going to have on the community. Like it's a due diligence, like droners.io could save someone $100,000 from buying a bad piece of land. Like there's just so many different things. You got to think, if you don't get a drone pilot at your land, like you're only going to see, if you have 10 acres, best case scenario, the pictures get you to see, 10%, 1 acre. Like someone walks around an acre, gets some pictures. You have a drone pilot, like you go in the air, you see everything in one shot. Like the power of what you can see, how much land you can see in one drone picture.
Yeah. Plus the marketing side of it as well.
100%. But I don't have anything else, Dan.
As always, guys, thank you for joining. If you guys have not yet, please like and subscribe our YouTube channel. It really helps drive our mission forward. Other than that, thank you for joining. We'll see you next episode.
Thanks, guys.
As always, thank you for joining. Please do us a huge favor and like and subscribe our YouTube channel and share this with a friend. It really means the world to Ron and I, but more importantly, it could help change the life of someone else. Thanks for joining, and we'll see you next episode.